guys, Todd here from HomeConstructionImprovement.com. Today I want to show you a project that I've been working on. I've been building a really cool built-in entertainment center, and as part of that entertainment center I needed some doors for the cabinets and some drawers, and today I want to show you how I'm making a simple shaker style door frame with a beadboard panel. It's really easy. You need some basic shop tools. You need a table saw. Really, you can do the whole project on a table saw. You need a drill, things like that. So to start with, I made my door frames out of 2-inch wide, 3/4 white pine. You could make this out of any kind of hardwood. Poplar is a real popular one. I made a lot of my cabinet out of white pine just on availability and price. So for this project, I'm using that. I ripped down everything to 2 inches wide, cut everything to length. Make sure when you're cutting door frames and you're making a whole bunch of them, you want to repeat. Use a stop block at your cutoff saw, or use a stop block at the table saw. Make sure these are all identical. It'll really make a big difference on how everything lines up when you install the doors. So I've got the rails, and I calculated the rail length basically on the door opening plus the reveal, and I am using Blum hinges that are for a 3/4 inch overlay, and what that means is the door will overlay the opening by 3/4 inch around. So I've made these 3/4 inch on each end, longer than the opening, and then actual rails. What I've done here, this is a little bit trickier. So you've got to calculate the actual width of the door panel you want. So you've got a 3/4 inch overlay on the hinge side. And then you're probably going to hold back, if you've got a pair of doors like I do, about a 1/16 of an inch, so that there's a little bit of a space. If you had a regular single door, you'd overlay that 3/4 inch. So you come up with the door width, and then you need to subtract two sides, okay? And then you need to add back in this tenon. And I made my tenons about 7/16 of an inch long. My dado is a 1/2 inch, so it leaves a little bit of slop in there for glue. So anyway, cut these guys to length, and then the next part of it is I run every one of these pieces, both the rails and the stiles, through. I used a stacked dado. You could use a router table. You could actually use just a single blade on the table saw and run through multiple passes, but I used a dado set with a 3/4 inch setup plus a little bit, or a 1/4 inch setup, excuse me, plus a little shim, so that I had just a whisker over that, because I was finding that my beadboard panel that comes a 1/4 inch wide was really tight, and I want that panel to be able to float in these door frames. So I had my 1/4 inch stack plus a little 0.02 shim, I believe, and run all these through there. So the stiles of the rails, you get that dado in there, okay? The next step really is the fun part, is using a tenoning jig on the table saw. So I used a grizzly tenoning jig, which you can see here on the video, and you set it up so that you can cut the shoulders safely on this thing. So basically you're going to run this thing back and forth through the table saw in the vertical position to cut the shoulder out, okay? When we get done with that doesn't finish the cut. We need to cut the actual shoulder at the exact length that we want this piece, so that when we put this together, we've got this piece plus the two sides equal the total width of the door panel. So you got to double check your math. Probably have to do a couple test pieces like I did, and then I set up on my miter, pushing my miter through the table saw to cut off that shoulder right at the right dimension. I like using my Incra miter gauge. It has a really nice little stop on there, so once I got it set up to the right dimension, I use that stop. I passed all these pieces through, flipped them over to the other side, turn it around, do both ends, and cut all those off. And it is very repetitive and very accurate. Again, we're trying to get all these doors to match exactly, which is not an easy thing to do if you don't use stops. So once those are set up, basically you've got a rail and a stile with a tenon sticking out of this end, and it's really simple. These doors these are going to slide together. You want a nice tight fit, and again, when you're using the tenoning jig, you're going to want to do a lot of test pieces. You want that snug, but not so snug that it's going to split apart and split this frame, okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to fit this all up, make sure that it fits. I already did that, and then once we've got to that stage, what we're going to do is we're going to slide. I cut this panel, okay? This is a beadboard panel. Happens to be MDF. You can get pine. I like this because it's really stable. It's not going to swell. It's not going to twist and warp, things like that. And because I'm doing a painted cabinet, this is the perfect application. So I cut these so that they're basically, we're going to take the door width again. We're going to subtract the rails and stiles for the height and width, and then we're going to add back in about a 7/16 of an inch to fit into that dado that we cut. So that is going to slide into these panels. And what we're hoping to do is, when we get this all set, we will do a glue up, but we're only going to glue the intersection of the rail and stiles. We don't want to glue the actual panel because it will bind up, and if there's any movement, shrinkage, stuff like that due to the humidity in the house, you'll end up splitting these frames. So I like to just glue up the corners. It's pretty traditional cabinetry to do that, and then get the panel kind of centered where you want, because it may get a bit locked into place during that process. And you can see here pretty quickly you can put this frame together, and it's a really strong frame once it's glued up. Get everything put together. There we go. So here's your door frame, and get it all glued up. Use some clamps. Make sure everything's nice and square. I recommend, in this situation with a painted frame, I like to use a urethane-based glue. It'll fill in those joints in the tenon. Really nice, really solid connection. And you got to paint it. You can sand off with the glue oozes out. That works fine. Once this frame is made, or before, it really doesn't matter. The next step is the hinges, and I like to use these European-style hinges from Blum. They're not exactly real cheap, but then again, they're very easy to install with the right jig, and they last forever. They get a lot of adjustment. These are perfect. I love them. They come in all the commercial cabinets that I buy for the customers that we build homes, and they're really easy. Some people find it a little bit, confusing maybe on how to install them, but it's really easy. I bought a special jig from Rockler Woodworking. They sell all the jigs and parts and pieces you need for this. And you set up this little jig, you slide it onto the rail, and then you set up a Forstner bit, a special diameter Forstner bit, into your cordless drill, and it has a special jig on that fits into that drill bit that has a bushing that'll stop it at the correct depth. So you set the depth that you want. Again, that comes with the directions for the hinge. And you set up the position you want. You drill those Forstner drill circle holes in, and then these just sit right in. You screw them in with a couple of small wood screws that come with these, and you're all set. And then later, basically all you're going to do is this cabinet now will get installed to the inside of the face frame, and there's a little stop here. You can see these little brads that are on here, and those fit into the 3/4 inch style. There's one screw that goes in, and then once you get the door in, Blum has all these different screws on here and different positions that you can rotate and adjust the doors so that they line up really nice. So it's as simple as that. The nice thing about a shaker style door frame is it's really simple. You don't need a lot of fancy tools. If you have a table saw or a router, you can make a shaker style door with any kind of panel. You could put a flat panel in here. You could actually put a raised panel if you desired. The beadboard's a really nice choice. Again, the sky's the limit, and it's something that you can do at home with your tools and make some really nice cabinetry. I'm Todd from HomeConstructionImprovement.com. I'll see you at the next tip.